I'm on Esmond for Winners and Whiners. So Raider Nation had a reason to celebrate again last week as they won in a runoff. Frankly, the longest overtime game-winning run I've ever seen. 86 yards to pay dirt for Josh Jacobs to win the game. And obviously emotional again. Derek Carr dropped to his knees in relief. Is there any guy in the league that wears his emotions more on his sleeve than Derek Carr? Anyway, he opened the game throwing a couple of picks to the Seahawks, and boy, was he relieved they won the game. The Seahawks, meanwhile, drew their second game in a row for what I believe is the first time this year after losing to the Bucs the week previous. Now, the Raiders face their old enemy, the Chargers, which there have been some really interesting games between the Raiders and the Chargers going back over the years. I think the Holy Roller or Fumble Rooski, as it's called, is one of the more interesting. The Chargers last week pulled off a late win against the Cardinals. The Chargers beat the Raiders earlier in the season in La La Land 24-19. That game was much closer than most pundits predicted, and the Raiders were in the game till the end. Keep in mind, this was the very first game of the year. Are you ready for some shocking stats? Get this. The Raiders' defense, which has been called pathetic, embarrassing, awful most of the season, is statistically better than the Chargers. No lie. The Chargers give up on average more points on defense than the Raiders do. It's only about a half point a game, but the fact that they're worse than the Raiders was shocking to me. Now, they are also statistically worse than the Raiders on offense. I looked at these numbers, and I was sure I was going to see the Chargers defense right outside the top 10 somewhere. Nope. And the Raiders were going to be way down there. Nope. They're right about the same in sort of the bottom third of the NFL. And, you know, the Chargers defense, by the way, is particularly weak against the run. They have the fourth worst rushing defense in the NFL, give up a whopping 151 yards on the ground per game. Well, yeah, they got Joey Bosa, and they've got, his name's escaping me, the other linebacker that they got from Chicago who used to play for Khalil Mack. Apparently those guys don't play against the run because they suck at stopping the rush. Now, here's the problem for the Chargers. Josh Jacobs is coming off a monster game. He had 303 yards in combined offense, the most of any running back in Raider history. Keep in mind, Marcus Allen, Bo Jackson, he had better games than either of those guys had ever. And, of course, he had the 86-yard runoff touchdown. Look, Derek Carr is pressing. It's obvious. He's throwing balls into places he shouldn't be trying to. Now, whether this is because, as rumored, McDaniels is predetermining for Derek Carr where he is going to throw the ball, or whether Carr is doing it himself, it's irrelevant. Either way, they're turning the ball over too much. So, what do? Run the ball. Keep Derek Carr from having to play hero ball and throw the ball all over the place. The Raiders also have something the Chargers don't, a home field advantage. Let me say that again. The Chargers have no home field advantage. Whoever they play, the stadium is about half their fans, unless it's some team that really sucks, like the Texans. The Chargers are less efficient than the Raiders on offense and defense. Opponents need to gain 15.3 yards per point against Vegas and only 14.3 against the Chargers. On offense, the Raiders score a point for every 15.2 yards gained versus the Chargers at 15.6. Now, the pundits love the Chargers, especially at the beginning of the season. Oh, Justin Herbert's going to be an MVP candidate. The Chargers could make a Super Bowl run. Look at that defense. They stink. They're actually worse than the Raiders. So, look, the Raiders, by the way, everybody hates Derek Carr, hates the Raiders. You know, Devontae Adams, that's a mistake. Wow. The Raiders seem to have turned a corner in the last couple weeks. They're finding ways to win games instead of losing, and the Chargers just seem stuck at mediocre to bad. The Raiders are getting points, but guess what? I'm coming for the outright win. The men in black get it done. Book it. The Raiders take down the Bolts, and they're going on a mini run, folks. Now that it's meaningless, and all it's going to do is hurt their chances in the future, because the best thing for this team would be to have high draft picks. They're going to win 5 out of their last 6 games. Just watch. It's the Raider way. All right, I'm out, Esmond, for Winners and Whiners, trying to make you a better